Hello, world. Welcome back to the Simple Sports Podcast. We're back for another NFL podcast. Here again, rolling into week 6. The train just keeps on rolling. I love it. We're right in the heart of the football season. 11 weeks to go. 10 games to go for some guys. Some guys haven't had their bye weeks yet. Some have. 49ers came off of their early bye week. Got a huge win over the Browns. The NFL season is flying by. And it's full of a few great matchups this week, week 6. And we'll get all into all of that in just a moment. But first, I want to talk about two things really, really quickly. One, I have to say, I've been a fan of Richard Sherman most of his career. Obviously, he has made his noise. Most people obviously know him from the Legion of Boom with the Seahawks. Famous Michael Crabtree. Beef, if you want to call it that, the Are You Mad Bro with Tom Brady, all of that stuff, the famous defense and all that good stuff. Seems like a high character guy, both on and off the field. I know obviously some people are turned off by the trash talking, but as far as you can tell, or at least as far as I can tell, never said anything that just flatly crossed the line. Some people might say the Aaron Andrews interview was a little bit over the line, but he didn't say like anything vulgar or super personal. He basically just said that Crabtree wasn't a good receiver, whatever. That was until this past Sunday. I'm still a fan of the player, Richard Sherman. But the whole Baker Mayfield handshake gate, as it was referred to, was just a bit much. Listen, if you don't like Baker, you do like Baker and his bravado and all that good stuff. I'm a little on the fence about it. I enjoy the bravado as a whole. I would like to see the quarterback be a little more reserved. I don't necessarily mind the quarterback being a little outspoken, but there probably is a line. And, listen, Baker's a young guy. He's a young quarterback. He'll learn. It is what it is. But like I said, I don't care if you like or dislike Baker. That's not for me to decide clearly. But you can't just falsely label people. And to me, it's one of my biggest pet peeves, just kind of willy-nilly throwing stuff out there with no basis to really stand on. And the national media jumped all over it the last couple of days. A lot of people walked back their original thoughts after seeing the video of the handshake. Honestly, the story in and of itself, the handshake is really a non-story. It's more the fact that he basically lied about it. It was a facade, and look, is it a big deal? No, of course not, but it's just not cool. You just don't do that to people. Talk all the trash you want, as long as you don't cross the line, but don't lie on people. That's just not cool. So that's that. The other thing I want to mention really quickly, if you notice, there was a survey that came out, and Tom Brady was selected over my favorite quarterback, at least going forward, Patrick Mahomes, as the quarterback to win one game for your team. I don't disagree for a second. Listen, okay, of course, if you're talking about going forward the next 5-10 years, something like that, of course you would take Patrick Mahomes, right? You'd be an idiot not to. But if, hypothetically, there was one game to be won and you had to draft whatever quarterback in the league right now you wanted to lead you for that game, without question, give me my guy Tom Brady. No hesitation, no doubt whatsoever. I just wanted to throw out that little tidbit. But now that I think it's time to move on. So one game I'm particularly interested in is Giants versus Patriots. If only the Giants were good, I'd be so much more interested in this game if the New York Giants were, actually a decent team, given the history and all that good stuff. Sure, it would be fascinating regardless, because we still have some things that are interesting to take a look at. We'll get to see Daniel Jones against one of the greatest football minds in history, Bill Belichick. So we'll see how he fares in that. Most will say, Tom Brady outplays or Daniel Jones outplays Tom Brady or Brady outplays Daniel Jones, whatever. But they don't actually face off directly. So I'm not as interested in that. You're talking about a 20-year, 6-time Super Bowl champ versus a guy who's played in less than 5 games in his entire career. So not interested in that at all. What I'm most interested in is seeing what kind of craziness Bill Belichick will throw at the young fella, and especially how he responds to it. He's been all right so far. I'm far more impressed than I was, coming into the season, but certainly not blown away. He's done well given what he's got, but I'm not blown away by any stretch. And that's to be expected, right? I mean, he doesn't have his weapons tomorrow night. Barkley, Shepard, Ingram, Wayne Gallman all have been ruled out for tomorrow night's game already. So he's going in basically with both hands tied behind his back. So it's going to be difficult. In addition to that, though, I'm interested in seeing what Tom Brady looks like individually. I have the utmost confidence in Tom Brady. I just said I would take him to win one game. And although we haven't seen him light it up by any stretch this year, I'm not so sure that's not just a reservation of talent. Listen, people, the guy's 42. He is a human. And no, he hasn't looked great. But do you really truly doubt when you really need him the most that he won't show up? Because I don't. There's simply no way he can be the Tom Brady that we've come to know for a full 16 games at age 42. It's just, I don't believe, regardless of how well he may play at any given moment, he's not going to do that for 16 games. He's 42 years old. I don't know if you've ever seen a 42-year-old athlete, even a good one. They're not young in the legs. So he's simply an idol. I think he's in waiting. And when the rubber needs to meet the road, the ball goes in Tom Brady's hands to win the game. It's that simple. We saw it all throughout the playoffs last year. They ran it. They kept it close, keep the game close, keep the score close. And when it was time, Tom Brady goes on the drive to win the game. They ran it like crazy against the Chiefs in the first half. And then in the second half, Mahomes started to heat up a little bit after the first half being a little bit slow for him. And every time the Chiefs went down and scored, Brady answered. Third down after third down, after third down, after big throw, he comes through. Again, in the Super Bowl, they weren't very successful as a whole on offense, really for most of the game, but it was close. Again, they keep the game close. And at the end of the game, when it was 6-3, I believe the score was, the ball went in Brady's hands yet again. Boom, 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 down the field for a touchdown. Ball game over. It's surgical. It's almost scientific, and quite frankly, it's just plain fun to watch someone be so tuned into their craft and be able to execute at that level so consistently. And on top of all of that, to have Bill Belichick calling defensive football plays, it's also extremely impressive to watch. They rarely, if ever, have a superstar, at least in name. Guys like, they don't get their hands on the Aaron Donalds or the Khalil Macks, or the, whoever else you want to put in that sort of category. They just don't. The last couple of years, they've had Stephon Gilmore, who has a case as the best single cover corner in all of football. And obviously he's a household name. But outside of that, no one is really a household name for at least non-Patriots fans. You find a football fan, they can go through the whole roster. And it's a shame because they're such a disciplined and physical and cohesive unit. Last year, they made the Rams offense look largely inept. They held the team to 3 points for the entire game after they were just smacking people all year. It's phenomenal to witness on a week-to-week basis, and I can't wait to watch it yet again. And yet, I don't know if there's a team more hated than the Patriots, other than maybe the Dallas Cowboys. People don't like them. And personally, I don't get it. How do you not like winners? Look, they aren't my team by any stretch. I'm a Titans fan. But if you're a fan of good football in general, how can you hate teams like New England? It's like, there are people who hate Alabama, and I get it. College football is a little bit different. But at the end of the day, Alabama is the standard. Clemson's had a rise here recently, but let's not kid ourselves. It hasn't been this 10 or 20-year domination. Maybe not 20 years for Alabama, but you know what I'm saying. It's football at its finest, and for football fans, it's like watching a machine at work just print out perfection over and over and over again. I'll be watching this Sunday yet again, of course, because I watch them every week, as I watch every game every week. Because again, I'm a football fan as much, or if not more, than the Titans fan, and I will be parked in front of my TV starting at 1 p.m. But for now, I am moving on. So I want to talk about the Seahawks versus the Browns matchup, but really quick, I just want to say Baker Mayfield. He's not played well this year. Despite all of the things going on around him that are out of his control, at the end of the day, he has to hold some of this responsibility as well, and he's not played well. But I don't want to talk about him just yet. He'll have his day where I go in, sure. His numbers are not great. He's completing under 60% of his passes, which is disgusting. He has like 4 touchdowns to 8 or 9 picks, which is disgusting. He was like 8 for 22 in the game against the 49ers. Disgusting. But I don't want to talk about that right now. It's easy to beat up on Baker Mayfield, and I'm not that type of guy. What I do want to talk about, though, is the coach, Freddie Kitchens. Would it be smart for Freddie Kitchens to be on the hot seat if the Browns get smoked by the Seahawks this week? No, probably not. Wouldn't be a smart move. Too much instability. It's already an unstable organization. Baker would be then on his 3rd head coach in just 2 years. That is the epitome of instability. But the question is, will he be on the hot seat? Not should he be, but will he be? And I'm pretty sure he will be. Now, for the record, I don't think that's going to happen ultimately. I don't think they lose to Seattle. It's a classic trap game. One team coming off an embarrassment. The other goes on the road as a hot, probable playoff team. One team is a really, really good team, consistently well-run team. And the other, they have the potential to be. They have the roster to be. And in addition to being very desperate after being embarrassed and humbled on primetime, it's do or die time for the Browns, and I believe that they come through. There is a clear formula for them to win games. We've seen them do it against the Ravens, and then they revert back to something different against the 49ers last week. I said this in a podcast or two before. I'm going to say it again. News flash, hot off the press to Freddie Kitchens and whoever else needs to hear it. Please run the football with Nick Chubb. It alleviates the pressure of throwing the football from Baker Mayfield. And when they do elect to throw, they can manipulate the defense through play action, get the ball to their explosive playmakers, OBJ, even Nick Chubb in the passing game, obviously Jarvis Landry, OBJ. They have some playmakers. Get the ball to them. The important factor here is helping out your young quarterback. And here's the thing I want to say, and this is part of the reason why I'm not ready to tear Baker apart like so many others. People have evidently forgotten, even if willfully so, that Baker has barely played in 16 NFL games. He has a long way to go. And as a coach, Freddie Kitchens, who also barely has his toe in the water, he has to assist Baker in being successful by taking him out of bad situations and putting him into good ones, and out of good situations and into great ones. Baker cannot carry the team. No rookie quarterback, no young quarterback, first or second, third year, anything like that, is going to carry you anywhere. They can be a significant part of what you do, but they cannot carry you. They don't know enough. They haven't seen enough. They haven't experienced enough. And Baker hasn't seen enough. So help him by running the football. Use that to get into your play action. Maybe you go a little up-tempo. He's obviously worked in a college-style offense before. We saw what's happened at Oklahoma the last few years. Maybe you can work some of that up-tempo stuff into the Browns offense. Keep the defense on its heels. And maybe above all of this, help mask the deficiencies of the offensive line, who couldn't protect Baker at any point this year so far. We know they traded away one of the best linemen that they had, one of the best guards in the NFL, to get OBJ. And, some people like it. Some people dislike the move. It's very convenient to say that it hasn't worked now just because they're getting smacked around. But OBJ is a special talent. I don't necessarily disagree with it in that manner. But the reality of it is that if you're going to do so, you have to have a counter to it. Baker is a solid athlete, but he's not a great one. And when you have him running for his life because his line can't protect him, seeing ghosts as a result and bailing from the pocket, sometimes without any real reason, he's going to fail at that. Deshaun Watson has a poor offensive line. It's better now with Laramie Tunsil, sure, but for the majority of his early career and even early this year, he's had a poor one. He's taken a lot of hits, a lot of sacks. But Deshaun Watson is a world-class athlete. Russell Wilson is a world-class athlete. We've seen the offensive line that he's been behind for the last few years, but he's a world-class athlete. Baker is athletic. He has athletic qualities. He is not a world-class athlete. Okay, you have to protect him, and that doesn't always just mean an offensive line, pass protection, sliding it left, sliding it right, keeping a tight end or running back in the backfield to help. Just throwing sheer numbers at the problem doesn't always fix it. Sometimes you can loosen up the pressure by getting the run game going, and that's what I expect to see this Sunday. I'll take the Browns to win a really, really close football game. Another team with some tough sledding coming on Sunday is the LA Rams when the 49ers come to visit. It's going to be no easy task as the Niners have been putting in work this year, 4-0, and just coming off a bye week and demolishing the Cleveland Browns on primetime. The 49ers were, I don't want to say totally off my radar. I certainly didn't expect them to be this good. I mean, listen, it's still really, really early. There's a lot of football left to play. But through 4 games, they have looked phenomenal. And now they travel across the state to take on the LA Rams, who I have my doubts about. I had my doubts about them heading into the season. I had them really high in my power rankings just because of the sheer fact that they were in the Super Bowl last year. No football had taken place up until that point, so it's hard to drop them any further than, out of the top 3 or 4 at the worst. And it starts with one guy, Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley has not looked like Todd Gurley to a lot of people, obviously. And to me, I don't think he will again. I'm not buying into this narrative that they are saving him for the playoffs or for the really important games. And this is why. This started last year. He didn't finish the season last year strongly. And in fact, he really didn't even finish the season. He was mostly absent in the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl. And now this year, while slightly more productive, it was just that, slightly more productive. Not really super impactful. He was just kind of there. I am shocked that we haven't really seen Henderson yet. I'd have to imagine there's a valid reason. Maybe they don't think he's really ready, although you don't typically hear that from or hear that about running backs. Running backs are pretty, I shouldn't say easy because I don't know what it's like, but I would imagine running back is one of the easier positions to just kind of slot a guy in and let him do his thing. Maybe he's hurt and it's just not widely known. Maybe the Rams truly do believe Todd Gurley will come through soon and resurface at some point this season. They just kind of keep patiently waiting. I don't know. But I believe those days have come and gone. And I don't see Todd Gurley on the field anymore. I just, not the one we've gotten used to anyway. I just see a guy. Just a guy. And if that guy didn't have a huge contract, I feel that we wouldn't be seeing him at all. He'd be on the bench or, more likely on another team. So the correlation to all this, though, the side effect, if you will, is his quarterback, Jared Goff, who has looked nothing like himself since last year when all this started to take place with Todd Gurley. I don't really care what his numbers look like. You can pick and choose what numbers you want to talk about and manipulate the conversation with that. That's fine. Sean McVay is a great coach. He's going to get schemed into having decent numbers just on that alone. But the eye test, to me, he doesn't look the same. Teams and coaches have seemingly caught up to this offense. You widen out, stop the stretch zone, which will eliminate the play action. There's a lot of ghost motions and bells and whistles and misdirection and confusion, pre-snap and stuff like that. But it's I think people have caught up to it. And if you can eliminate that stretch run, you force Goff to beat you as a quarterback, picking apart the defense. And, haven't really seen him do that yet. Now, he's physically capable of doing it. He's physically capable of making all the throws. He has great touch. Throws a good deep ball, decent throwing on the run, rolling out of the pocket, things of that nature. But it seems far too often to me that he has predetermined where he's going with the football, and it often leads to interceptions or balls that should have been intercepted, passes deflected, whatever. And to cap all this off, what's most disturbing about it all, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, it's the lack of adjustments that they make. They didn't adjust last year, and the Patriots exposed that in the Super Bowl. They had no plan B. There was no counterpunch. There was no backup plan, and that really hasn't changed. There is no backup plan. They do what they do, and they just expect you to stop it. And if you can stop it, then you're going to win the game, because to this point, there hasn't really been a backup plan. And I think it's starting to be exposed now because there's a lot more tape. B, Todd Gurley isn't what he used to be, and that has a trickle down effect. But more importantly, and typically to their benefit, they've just had better personnel than the majority of teams in the league that they face. If you were to grade their roster, they would at a minimum, I guess, would be in the top 10. You could argue they're in the top 5. They would certainly be in the top 10 as far as just grading the roster of players. And so that helps, sure. But when play A on Sunday doesn't work, what do? The 49ers have an incredible defensive line, and they have the ability to play the same defensive scheme or a similar scheme that the Patriots just deployed to beat them. What happens when plan A doesn't work? Because to this point, McVay has not budged off that plan. We'll find out on Sunday. But for now, I'm moving on. Now, I spoke a little bit about a coach being on the hot seat or potentially being on the hot seat, Freddie Kitchens. I want to speak about another coach on the hot seat, another one that will certainly be joining the club with the loss on Sunday, and his name is Jason Garrett of the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott as well may be in worse shape because of his poor play the last few weeks, but we'll save that conversation for another day. But boy, could you imagine Dallas Cowboys starting 3-0 versus the Dolphins, the Giants, the Redskins, all just piss poor teams. I shouldn't say piss poor. The Giants aren't piss poor. At least they have some direction. They're not a good team, but they have some direction. But the Dolphins and Redskins, my God. And the Bengals as well. I haven't played the Bengals, but talk about embarrassing. But you beat all those teams, and then to lose 2 straight to 2 potential playoff teams, 2 likely playoff teams, that's fine. You lose to a playoff team, 1 on the road, tough place to play. I get it. Not the end of the world. Raise an eyebrow, considering who they were playing against, Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. But again, on the road, so not too much of a concern. Then you lose again at home to the Packers, and you don't just lose. You get embarrassed by the Green Bay Packers. If you were to come out and drop a game to the lowly Jets and Sam Darnold coming off a mono for a couple of weeks, that's bad. Jerry Jones said he wouldn't be firing Jason Garrett, and I believe him. But Jason Garrett doesn't have a contract past this year. Semantics, baby. And I don't think anything short of an NFC Championship game appearance is going to do it any better. He's going to have to at least get the NFC Championship game, and I think probably have a decent showing at least. He can't. They might be able to lose and still keep his job, but they can't get there and just get whitewashed by anybody. And the thing is, Jerry Jones, he has a way with words, doesn't he? Right? No, he won't be fired. But if it goes like that, God forbid they end up not making the playoffs or losing in the first round, he won't be back. Jason Garrett won't be back. It's as simple as that. And if the Cowboys don't make the playoffs, Dak will have cost himself some serious money. I mean, I believe he's already done that with the performance he's put on the last couple of weeks. But we'll save that for another day as well when we talk about Dak Prescott in particular. But I do want to make a comparison between Dak Prescott and a quarterback that I know really well. I see a lot of similarities between him and Marcus Mariota. They are the same guy, really, aside from the fact that Dak is a bit more durable. So set aside the stats for a second and just soak this in. Both guys are successful and look best when what? When they have a run game and they can operate the play action and RPOs, things like that. Screen game, short intermediate passes, those type of things. They both look best and play best when they have a lead. That's any quarterback really. But these guys in particular play best when they have a lead, or at least are in a close game. If they are indeed in a close game late, I think you can mostly count on both of them to, take you on a decent drive. Let's say you're down by a field goal. You need a field goal to win. 2 minutes left. I think you have a reasonable amount of confidence in both of them to take you down the field. We've seen Marcus Mariota do it a couple of different times. We've seen him do it in the playoffs down 21-3. We've seen Dak do it as well. Or if they have the lead, I think either of them could, kind of keep the other team at bay, ball control, clock control, things like that. Make sure they don't make any major mistakes. They're both solid men on and off the field, right? You don't ever hear them in the news. Dak had his incidents in college, as any young kid would. But by and large, both appear to be upstanding citizens, both on and off the field. And both of them tend to, as far as in the actual game, both of them stay within the offense. Neither one really improvises too much. You don't have to necessarily worry about them going off script. However, both of them tend to hold the ball a little long. They both tend to run themselves into sacks on occasion. Both have their issues with ball security in the pocket. They both fumble quite a bit in the pocket, and that's a result of holding on to the ball too long. They both have their issues with throwing the ball into traffic occasionally, turning it over, wildly misfiring and missing targets at the worst possible times. And both put up pretty average numbers as a whole. Although Dak's are, and I don't know this for a fact off the top of my head, but I would have to venture to guess that Dak's are a little better. And it makes sense. He has better weapons as a whole, particularly in the backfield and particularly the offensive line. So you would expect them to have a little bit better numbers. And since they are both so heavily dependent on the run game, that makes sense. But neither of them are going to throw you to success on a consistent basis. Neither one. They both have Sundays where you say, wow, I can see, Mariota as my franchise quarterback. You see him last year against the Cowboys or the Patriots. You see him the year before. I think it was the year before against the Eagles and the Packers and the Seahawks. You see him this year against the Browns and the Falcons. You're like, man, I could make that guy my franchise quarterback. I don't mind paying him $30 million. And then there are plenty of other Sundays that make you wonder if they can even be a long-term starter. That gets a bit of an easier outing against the poor Jets this week, so we'll see how he bounces back. But this game also has trap written all over it, and I wouldn't be too shocked if the Jets at least make this a close football game. All right, and that's all I got for you guys today. Week 6, I'm pumped. We'll be back next Tuesday to talk about Week 6, how it all shook out. Until then, you guys take it easy. I'll see you next time. Peace.